Have you ever been part of a project that went sideways and almost immediately the first question on everyone's mind was, whose fault is this? Yeah, we've all been there. It's such a human reaction, but honestly, it's a trap. Welcome to a special report from the Human Error News Network. We're the ones who look at the stories behind the blame to find out what really happened. And our investigation tonight starts with a really critical choice.
This right here, this is the choice at the very heart of every mistake, every accident, every single time things go wrong. See, blame is a full stop. It's an endpoint. But learning is where things get interesting. That's the beginning. And the story we're about to unpack shows you just how high the stakes are when we get that choice wrong. Just let that sink in for a second. The man who literally fell from the edge of space, broke the sound barrier with his own body, and lived, that same man died on what everyone called a routine flight. How? How is that even possible? Well, the official report gives a simple two-word answer. But that answer, it hides a much, much bigger story. So, let's start with that official story. You know the drill. We've all seen these headlines before. There's an accident, a quick investigation, and then a nice, neat conclusion that's designed to just close the book. The facts of the case are just stark. On a perfectly clear day, the world-renowned fearless Felix was on a simple paragliding flight. People who saw it said everything looked totally normal. Until, suddenly it wasn't. The craft just started to spiral, and it plummeted from the sky. So, after months of looking into it, the prosecutor, Raffaele Iannella, was absolutely certain. He said there were no technical faults, no mechanical failures. The gear was perfectly fine. The official conclusion? He fell into a spiral, and he could not get out. He was unable to do the maneuver that he should have done to exit. In other words, human error. And just like that, case closed. For most people, that's where the story ends. I mean, it's a simple, pretty understandable conclusion. It assigns faults and it lets everybody move on. But here at the Human Error Network, a label like that is never the conclusion. No way. It's actually the first clue. It's the sign that tells us where the real investigation needs to begin. So let's start asking some better questions. You see, to really understand the tragedy of 2025, we have to rewind the clock. We have to go back to the absolute triumph of 2012. We're going to compare two moments where the exact same man faced a terrifyingly similar danger, but with drastically different outcomes. Okay, first up, let's go back to 2012. You all remember this, the Red Bull Stratos project. Felix Baumgartner is standing on the doorstep of space. But the thing is, what's important here isn't just the man himself, it's the massive invisible system that's holding him up. This was not a solo act. This was a system. We're talking years of meticulous planning, a gigantic support team of experts, a high-tech mission control center monitoring every single heartbeat. And they had contingency plans for their contingency plans. So when he went into a potentially deadly flat spin, that system kicked into gear and saved his life. And because of that system, he survived. And he didn't just survive, he shattered records, reaching Mach 1.25. The system worked, which allowed the man inside the system to do his job. Now, let's fast forward 13 years, a different day, a different kind of machine, and a tragically different kind of system. Or really, a lack of one. The 2025 flight was the polar opposite of the space jump. It was just a routine flight. He was completely alone. There was no mission control, no team of experts on the radio. When that spiral started, he was the entire system. And in that one critical moment, the system failed. So when you look at it laid out like this, side by side, the real story just jumps out at you, doesn't it? Was the critical difference the man? Or was it the system, or lack thereof, around him? In 2012, an incredible system made a human failure totally survivable. But in 2025, a non-existent system made a human failure fatal. So this brings us all the way back to that fundamental choice we talked about at the beginning. When we see a failure like this one, there are really only two paths we can take. Path one is blame. It's the easy path. The pilot made a mistake, case closed. The problem is solved because we found someone to point the finger at. But path two, that's the path of learning. It starts by assuming the individual's error is just a symptom of a bigger issue. The real question becomes, why did the system let that error become fatal? This is where the real work begins. You know, the funny thing is, Baumgartner himself understood this better than anyone. He hated being called a daredevil. He saw himself as a planner, someone who only succeeded because of the incredible systems he built around himself. He knew that all that planning was the only thing standing between life and death. So what does all this mean for us, for you and me? It means we have to start changing the fundamental question we ask when things go wrong. We have to learn to look beyond the pilot in the cockpit. From now on, I want that phrase, human error, to be a trigger for you. When you hear it, don't let it be the end of the conversation. Let it be the start. Think of it as an invitation to get curious. Why was that person in a position where one mistake was unrecoverable? What safeguards were missing? What could we have done differently to build a stronger, more resilient system? And look, this isn't just about analyzing huge tragedies from a distance. You can apply this exact same thinking to your own life, to your job, to your family. You can become the investigator. Here's your new roadmap. The next time something goes wrong, I want you to resist that powerful gut instinct to figure out who is at fault. Instead, just pause. Ask why. Look at the whole system, the process, the environment, the support structures. Where were the gaps? And most importantly, how can we strengthen that system so the same mistake can't happen again? Or at least so it isn't a catastrophe. Because look, blaming Felix Baumgartner for his own death is easy. It closes the case, lets everyone feel like there's an answer. But learning from his story, from his greatest triumph and his final tragedy, that's what really honors his legacy. It teaches us that we aren't defined by our mistakes, but by our willingness to build systems that are strong enough to forgive them. So the next time you see that headline, don't just accept the easy answer. Start asking the right questions.